So, hi everyone. Hello. Thank you for coming. It's an honor to be presenting before you today. So let me introduce you to my company. This is the Permariculture Institute. So what we're up to is sustainable offshore mariculture. My name is Dylan Tilley. I graduated here from FAU. My background is ocean engineering. And so what is permariculture? Basically, it's a term coined by the Institute from permanent marine culture, and goes to our mission statement, which is providing solutions for ocean colonization and responsible resource management. Okay, that's basically the blue revolution. So these are the main elements of what this opportunity is all about. So technology, of course, is pushing all industries, and what's happening right now on the oceans is that we are colonizing them. And our opportunity that we're really going to leverage, of course, is the mariculture. But leasing land from federal government and from the state of Florida right now is part of this real estate issue, and the advancements in technology like automated net pens and finfish net pen culture is also a big element. So as part of our mariculture production, we're going to focus at first on live rock leases to produce coral and other ornamental products for the aquarium industry. And then we're going to, simultaneously, we're focusing on shellfish culture to get us into the food part of aquaculture, right? And that's a separate lease because the sites need to be clean. They need to have water quality tests for coliform and other pathogens because people are eating the food, right? So Sunray Venus clam, I'll tell you more about it. But also, there are no net pens for finfish in Florida. Hawaii already has net pens, and so does Puerto Rico. But there is been a streamlined process for permitting these net pens, and we'll get into more of that later and how seaweed is a part of all that. So let's just get right into business. These are our major products that we're going to be focused on selling. Okay, so this is sort of the process going from coral and live rock to the Sunray Venus clam, which has already been identified in restaurant studies as preferable in taste, and it's been selected because it's a native species that can bring diversity to our industry here in Florida. And then the breakaway is really going to be the finfish poultry. Okay, so the aquarium or the artificial reef industry actually is another kind of element of that, and then the seafood consumer market, of course. So domestically, the industry for fish is $5 billion. A big part of that is aquaculture, right? But this is all domestic, and 91% of the seafood we eat by value is imported. Okay, so we're 15th in the world in aquaculture as the United States, and as the state of Florida, we have really the greatest opportunity to be an exporter in this industry. So, so for the aquarium industry, this is going to be kind of our easy in, right? The U.S. and don't get me wrong, I'm very passionate about this as well, and it's a critical part of sustainably dealing with the resources in the ocean. So 60% of our global demand for ornamental live rock. So we're one of the biggest parts of this global industry for aquarium hobbyists and other commercial aquariums. And just for live rock alone, 3 million pounds per year. Okay, so we're going to probably be selling that at $3 a pound on average at first, and you can see that right there. You know, if we can get a big chunk of that market, there's not many domestic producers. And Fiji in 2008 banned the exportation of live rock. They were historically one of the prime exporters of live rock, and around the world, the pressure is on to ban the export of unsustainably harvested live rock. So corals are very valuable. This coral here sold for over $1 million. this coral here is in the several thousands of dollar range, and there's an $800 coral. They're like art pieces. They can sell for all kinds of prices, and it really takes an expert to show their value, to identify the value. Actually, a marine biologist, because there's a lot of species that are gonna be present on the reef and that we can sell. Okay. So as part of the seafood market, we're again one of the largest consumers in the world, and we import most of our seafood, which is mostly from aquaculture. So why Florida? Well, we're here, and these are the identified aquaculture use zones by the FDACS, the Florida Department of Agriculture and Conservation Science. They are the ones that do the permitting process and lease the acres of land in the state of Florida. So we're kind of identifying this Cape Romano site for because it's closest to us as just for the shellfish culturing of the Sunray Venus clan, like I was saying. But the sovereignty submerged lands extend 3 miles out on the Atlantic side and 9 miles out on the Gulf side, and the exclusive economic zone extends 200 miles. Okay, and so at that point we could lease land from the federal government, and then beyond that, it's no man. It's international waters, of course. So this whole area here has been approved for aquaculture use, and there are many vacant lots on many of these sites. Okay, so we have an ideal climate. Fish metabolism is faster with warmer waters, and of course we're the only state that can produce reefs besides Puerto Rico and Hawaii in domestic United States. So we've identified Florida as a major potential producer and exporter of aquaculture products. Okay, and the federal government has put out this Gulf Aquaculture Plan that has basically identified the issues to sustainability and set the precedent for the regulations that are going to be in place. So this is the cost for sovereignty submerged leases. It's essentially nominal, right? Compared to aquarium producers on land or aquaculture users on land that have a huge overhead cost and infrastructure for their recirculating systems. Okay, so this is part of the opportunity right here. Okay, so live rock lease production. What does that look like? This is a simple piece of live rock that you might expect to sell for like $3 a pound. Many aquariums use like 20 pounds to start off. They also, the live sand is a valuable part of that. We essentially put fossil rock that's quarried we get relatively inexpensively. We're sourcing this from Live Rock USA and in Florida, from Florida quarries. And you leave this material to create hard bottom on the site where it's originally sandy, and you come back later a few months and organisms have colonized the environment and you can harvest it. So this is a brain coral. This would be able to sell for much more value, right? These are blue sponges, red sponges, black sponges, an urchin, feather worms, a star coral, anemone, cup coral here, decorator crab, and blue hermit crab. These are sea cucumbers, different types of sea cucumbers. And all of these have been identified at similar Florida live rock lease sites. Okay, so how about the sargassum seaweed? You've all seen this seaweed washing up on shore. You may not have realized that it's a huge industrial product, because 70% of the dry weight of this seaweed is algin, which makes alginate or alginic acid, and is useful as like carrageenan or xanthan gum as a stabilizing agent for toothpaste and ice creams and all kinds of products there. Okay. But we're going to mostly use it as a fish feed and as a way to balance our nutrient cycle in the ocean. Okay. It's been already done. It's already been through research, shown successfully to as a supplement or as a replacement for soy-based fish feed. Okay, and it's really a keystone species for a whole host of an ecosystem. So there's a lot of beneficial interactions that we're going to be able to use with the seaweed along in our net pen culture. And this sea asparagus has already been successfully sold in restaurants. You might have even seen it before, glassware. It's got a couple of different names, but we're going to be able to use this in our recirculating systems because it's an aliphyte salt tolerant plant that will help us keep our nutrient levels low, important for reef culture. Okay. So this is the Sunray Venus clam, identified in research as a native clam that has this beautiful pink color when cooked, and it's already been successfully grown, but it still has it's still within a growth phase. It's still within a strong growth phase. Okay, it's just kind of out of research. Okay, and you may have heard of these fish. These would be appropriate fish that we've identified as part of our target species to culture in the net pens when our permits are approved. They're also some of the highest value game fish as part of the normal fishery landings. So the mariculture process. Well, in nursery production, we're going to be able. This is obviously a huge facility, but a recirculating system is what we're going to build in order to keep our live rock alive, because it's a perishable product essentially. So when we harvest from the site, in order to keep a quick turnover on our product, we can direct market it, and we're seeking partnerships with other large aquarium dealers in order to get more of our live rock and to get more of a chunk of the live rock market. Okay, because there are some major dealers of sort of startup kits for aquariums. Wow, I'm really low on time, so I forgot to start my clock. So the mariculture process, well, you kind of get the idea. These are net pens, different types of net pens. This is a Visai project in Hawaii. They're doing open ocean culture of fish, been very successful. There's some negative perceptions of fish farming, and we can kind of identify solutions for all of them. One of them I'll talk about in a second is the culturing of the lobster and the Caribbean king crab as part of a polyculture with the net pens. But essentially the science for growing sustainable fish is quite mature, okay? And by increasing the aeration, by having a sustainable biomass density, okay? Having the appropriate feed rates, things like that, you can keep a really healthy population of fish without using chemicals and things like that. So this research has been funded just recently for the actual polyculture of the Caribbean lobster, which you guys might have had before. Definitely a market. And looking forward, this is what we're kind of identified as the next funding opportunity. Okay, there's a lot of funding opportunities for this. And our phase is looking forward to the future. Okay? Thank you very much. Any questions?
So very impressive, and I read your business plan and learned a lot about fish. There was a lot of information. I would like to have seen a little bit more on the business itself. Actually, a lot more on the business itself. So you seem very visionary, very big ideas. But you need to translate the business into those ideas. So, for example, you mentioned the sargassum.
Mm-hmm.
That this could be a product, and how this, it's on the beach today, and then how this could be potentially harvested and then sold. So my suggestion would be to sort of take that as an initial business, as whether it's sargassum or something else, some other product, but use it as a initial beta for your ideas and your vision. So
can you go back to the phases while we're talking?
Sure. I do have some other sort of appendix slides I could show you if that might help with some good questions, but yeah. So live rock and shellfish production sites are going to be the very easiest to complete the permitting process, and you saw that the cost for leasing those sites is very nominal. So we expect to begin that kind of culture pretty soon. To be honest with you.
To give you an example, like it would have been helpful. We know what it costs to lease an acre.
Yes.
But what would a yield be per acre if you just populated that with live rock, in terms of revenue and expenses and so on?
Well, we could easily say that there's millions of dollars worth of value in the bottom. You know, let's say we have an acre site and we put 1 million pounds of rock there and it's worth $3 a pound. And we could do that for maybe $50,000, you know, get that done.
So that's what we would want to see in your phases, and then like when you expect a return, and if you're requesting funding from besides the grants, you know, what would that mean for us as investors? And I know that this is for contest, but as you continue on, that's what people are going to want to look for.
Certainly, and I actually have the document open, but you guys do have the documents there in the funding request section and the projected expenses. There are numbers given, you know, and a lot of those numbers for the live rock especially are based on help from Gary Levinson, who does Live Rock USA, and Tampa Bay Saltwater. Okay. So I could definitely give you some more figures on what it's going to cost, but a lot of it is basically the market, right? The price of fish fluctuates dramatically. The price of these corals is hard to quantify also.
You could put that even if it's in a range. So like,
right.
You know, I look at a lot of products that are market sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
So you can put that in there, so conditional based on market sensitivity. But this is today's price,
mm-hmm.
or today's range, and then you can build your business model revolving around that per product.
Right.
And then as an investor, you know, the investor and you obviously would come to, gee, this particular product potentially might yield the biggest margin based on supply versus demand, and then you use that as your initial phase one. So, and then build a business around that initial phase one. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes.
And don't assume we're going to do the homework.
Right.
I
have the director of business development for the company. What kind of had a conflict last minute. You know, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
I will say that so last night he wasn't letting down that he wasn't able to do that part of it. And
I probably missed it, but maybe you can go over what is it you're exactly doing that nobody else is doing? Or
there's nobody in Florida doing net pen aquaculture, right?
Doing what?
Net pen for finfish aquaculture, right? And there are many vacant lots in all of the aquaculture use zones that have been identified by the state. So we're a major importer of aquaculture products. And there's a growing population, there's an increasing demand for seafood and a higher margin for sustainably produced seafood, okay? So also fresher domestic product, that's always gonna be a margin too. So that's what we're interested in is kind of building up our domestic
So
product.
in your competitive advantage statement, when you talk about that, you know, what I think we're looking for, because you know so much about the subject matter, and we're coming at it from, you know, completely different background. It's helpful to have the industry and then how that makes such a difference here in the local area, from a consumer perspective as well as a business perspective. Just because, and I know you're so detailed and it was amazing. I really, you're one of my, yeah, it's very informative. But we're just getting lost in the.
There's always going to be more questions.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I welcome any questions. I only had the 15 minutes. You know, I was talking the whole time. You know, try to understand it is something that's already in existence. It's proven technology. There's no magic box here, right? But technology is pushing the frontier. Okay, we're going to colonize the ocean. There's going to be more of this type of production going on in all kinds of different ways. But you know, I've already identified the major. I'm welcoming your input, of course, too. But you know, if you could give me some more specific questions, I'd be happy to.
I think it's more
Well,
of
we
a
have time.
suggestion about the way that you're telling the story.
Right.
So just think about like the art, you know, like here's, you know, as we were sitting here as business people, we're looking at what's this business, what industry is it in, what makes it different, what makes it special, and then most all of us, I think, are investors. So we're like, okay, you know, is this something we would invest in? Do we know somebody who would invest in it? Although we know it's a contest and we get that. And maybe I'm speaking out of turn. I mean, is this kind of helpful? So just, you know, think about like the evolution. I know we gotta go, but because you have a lot of great detail and the visuals are great. Just take this as we want you to succeed. This is a healthy person because we want good for you. You know?
No, we totally changed it completely since the last
We
time.
want healthy
Whole
food,
bacon is good.
especially here, you know, I mean, you know, it was very clear that the geographical location is prime, it just wasn't as clear to us, I think, that as a consumer. In the model, right, so just think about that, like maybe a visual representation of that.
Business model, yeah, I thought I was just sitting here being slow.
No, of course. So we're trying to produce. We're a mariculture company, right? And when sales are kind of on the horizon, of course, we're going to hire dedicated sales managers and mostly
But
try to
the
get the
timeline
direct
would be really
marketing
cool.
to the South Florida restaurant industry. There's a really high demand for high value fish, that's superior in flavor, you know, and
Can I,
people are willing to pay the
I'd
margin.
like to, are you familiar with Joe Cardenas from Aquaculture also? So he's President Kelly of FAU knows Joe very well. Joe is in Tech Runway and positioned, you know, farm raising pompano. I'm going to do not justice to Joe's business, but Joe's done very well in the idea that pompano as a sustainable fish source, a food source, can be harvested and grown rapidly and go to market and so forth. So maybe I'll get your information later and you can tee up with Joe, because Joe, I think there's potentially some commonality, and Joe's already got some traction going, and there may be some synergies between the two of you as well. So,
Right. So he's doing like onshore recirculating tank system.
I'm not sure if it's onshore. It may be onshore. You know, again, I'm probably not going to do justice to
On
Joe,
land,
but
obviously.
yeah, and but his company's called Aquaco, and it's already gotten some real traction, and obviously part of the FAU school system here. So
But he can help kind of break down how.
the business model, the business, and exactly.
You know, one other question I had earlier before we started was how the Gulf Stream might help or affect or be a problem. And I've also heard before, like, what are you going to do in storms, right? So the big problem in storms is storm surge and wind and wave, and so you can lower the net pens to the bottom, and that's been demonstrated before that they'll be safe down there. That's what fish would do naturally anyway. And then the other issue was the Gulf Stream. So as I mentioned before, maintaining high quality water for the fish is really important for achieving really high biomass densities. And with the fast current that we have, we can have a stationary net pen that basically changes its water completely several times an hour, right? And the fish will thrive in those conditions. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So.